guys, welcome back. It's time for Metagame Monday. Before we get into the action, I just want to do a little bit of a shameless advertisement. I hope you guys will bear with me. So in the past week, obviously we had the showcase qualifier, then we had the last chances, stuff like that. So pretty high level legacy stuff. So that will also do us well when we get into the analysis of the current metagame. I helped some friends and players to qualify and do well in these tournaments. I'm very happy about that. So my friend Chris here asked for a deck. I gave him my painter deck and my plans. He 5-0'd a last chance. Yeah, definitely. You're welcome. I love the painted job here. No pun intended, with mono blue painter being his weapon of choice. 1 week before, Michael Reed here, Doomsday Specialist. We've been working a few weeks on getting Michael set up in the mindset of playing fair in Legacy. It was very nice to say a few nice words about my services after doing very well in the 250 player tournament. He 7-2'd, I think he finished 10th, playing for the marbles in the last round. Super nice job. He obviously played very, very well. Super happy to see Michael do well. And then last but not least, Polish Modern Crusher Zerk managed to qualify for the Legacy Showcase with breakfast. So I can help him get up to speed leading into the actual tournament, some interactions, some metagame analysis, how people would sideboard against him, how he could, use his counterplay out of this deck with regards to building his 75 and how to, slow roll different stuff. And yeah, he ended up taking second in that tournament, and he was also very nice to shout out my work here on Twitter afterwards. So all in all, this is exactly the interactions between people that I love to do. So if you think Magic coaching is something for you, you want to level up your legacy game, cube game, vintage game, you should definitely shoot me a message, and let's see if we can make great things happen. Last thing I want to mention is my Metafy and me hosting the Eco Cups. The Eco Cups are basically me inviting 2 or 3 VIPs, and they get to play against my members for awesome prices. It's usually going to be treasure chests and foil signed artist proofs. I've already organized a few of those. As you can see on this message I wrote on Discord, number 2 is wrapping up. The first vintage is going to be coming up. We have Eternal Weekend Champion Montolio. We have basically the voice of vintage, no pun intended. I'm actually level 1 as VIPs. We'll be playing against 14 members. If that's anything for you, get in there. It will require a $10 subscription. The good thing is I'll be hosting these all throughout the year, and you have access to all of my guys when it comes to legacy, when it comes to vintage, when it comes to strategy about dual commander, cube, mindset, metagame analysis, whatever the case may be. So check it out if that's anything for you. And we have a little legacy 3.0 coming up with priority for new members. I have Hello Newton, I have JPA, and I have a Neville Shoot lined up as VIPs for that one. So you can expect this throughout the year. Cool players to play against. They play against my members, and yeah, we play for cool prices. Obviously, it's going to be free with the subscription. So without further ado, and thanks for sticking with me, let's get into Metagame Monday, because I have missed this one. Quite frankly, I did miss the last week. For good reason. I decided it was going to be the last hurrah for a couple of decks, so there wasn't really a reason to go into it. But here we are. So I've chosen to analyze the 4 legacy challenges that happened on the weekend and the showcase. So I skipped the Wednesday challenge. That was cool, right? 2 days after the unbans, or the bans rather. But I think this is going to be more, useful moving forward. So let's get into it. So we have Demir Tempo here at 6 copies out of the 40 top 8 slots, which is quite a lot. So I expect that to be, the default fair deck of the format, the Daze deck, the Wasteland deck. And one of the biggest reasons that this deck is able to do well, aside from having, good card quality in general, is the Disruption suite of having access to, Force Daze, Wasteland, and Thoughtseize. Those are just general stuff that they don't really care if your opponent is trying to go, off with Oops All Spells or cast a Show and Tell or cast a Blood Moon. Those cards are going to be relevant, right? So that deck, some more grindy than others. Some will have Baleful Strix in it, hitching with a Pseudomere. Some will be more low to the ground. But I think at this point, the Nethergoyfs have become quite stock since, you know, actually killing your opponent is important. Not giving your opponent time is valuable, right? So let's keep an eye out for the Fun Police, which is going to be the Dimir Tempo / midrange deck. Next column here has a lot of sneak attacks in it. So even with this Omniscience variant, Show and Tell is certainly back. And that's there's a couple of reasons for that. So the biggest threat to a deck like that is usually combo decks that can go faster. And with Reanimator taking a backseat after the ban of Troll, Sneak Attack is just primed to do well. Oh, of course, the printing of stock up doesn't help, or it doesn't hurt, rather. So Sneak Attack, whether you want Sneak Attack or Omniscience, who knows? Sneak Attack is a bit more threat dense. Omniscience is a bit more, you know, consistent with the mana. In a mirror match, you really don't want to cast Show and Tell, so that's why Sneak Attack is good, right? So there's a little bit of metagaming going on there. But in general, these are Show and Tell variants, which is a spell combo deck at the end of the day. 4 copies of Oops All Spells. This is kind of expected. So the biggest Graveyard Hate deck gets banned. Some people cut me the Graveyard Hate, cut a copy of a sideboarded Graveyard Hate. And then all of a sudden, stuff like Fast Reanimator and Oops All Spells can do well. So that's really to be expected, right? Up next, we have the Painter decks. And this is 2 blue variants and 2 red variants. So the blue one is the best one in a vacuum. So good. No weak spots, basically. But the red version is awesome because you have the Pyroblasts, and Pyroblasts are awesome into a field of Dimir Tempo, Show and Tell, etc. So I really like the metagaming going on there, and Painter being a deck that you can actually build in multiple ways. To be fair, it already was that, but I think the strength of Pyroblast in the metagame as a whole is something that makes that interesting. So let's keep an eye out for that in future weeks. Then we have 3 copies of Cephalid Breakfast here. So to be fair, a couple of players qualified for the showcase, but they both did well. Top 4 and top 2, right? So Cephalid Breakfast is exactly this. Now that we don't really rely on Entomb, Reanimate anymore, maybe we can rely on Nomad and Illusionist as our Splinter Twin fast combo deck, right? With the addition of Nadu and Urza Saga, this deck is looking really, really strong. Oh yeah, by the way, I almost forgot. I'll actually be having guest content on my Metafight this week. I'll have the champ himself, Larson, to write a breakfast guide. So that if that's anything for you, make sure to head over there. I really think breakfast is going to be awesome in the times ahead of us. Then we have 3 copies of Leyline of the Void here, which symbolizes these black decks that are trying to attack the metagame. So if you main deck a Leyline, you have your Helm of Obedience, your combo, but you're also shutting down, you know, Breakfast, Oops, Reanimator. Then all of a sudden you have quite a good deck. So I feel like the players who picked up this deck were anticipating Oops to be really strong. And they were right. So pretty awesome to see. This is a metagame deck. So in order for these main deck Leyline of the Void black mid-range decks to be good, you do need a certain metagame. So let's just make sure we keep an eye out for that one. A couple of Burning Wish here, which is basically red Storm variants. That could be the Epic Storm. That could be some gamble piles. So it's always good to see those players who enjoy counting to 10 or 20. A couple of Death and Taxes decks. That's going to be very good into the Dimir Tempo. Less good against, you know, the Show and Tells of the world. I think you can pretty easily build your deck to be good against Oops and Reanimator and stuff like that, Breakfast. So yeah, I like it a lot as a metagame choice, but it has to do with how much Show and Tell gets played, in my opinion. Now we have the one-of column. So only 1 prison deck. This is kind of key because after the banning of Mycosmon, you know, the Ancient Tomb gamers had to go somewhere, but apparently it wasn't to Monarch Prison. So Monarch Prison doesn't do well into a field of basic lands, Hydroblast, and Show and Tell. So makes a lot of sense. A lot of people are tinkering with control these days. Whether you play, you know, up the beanstalk, Jeskai with a lot of basics. Yeah, I think it has potential. It's cool to try and build it. I will say playing control in a new metagame is not ideal. You need the metagame to settle and be predictable in order to nail down the list. 1 mono black aggressive deck, which plays, you know, 8 Goyfs, Hand Disruption, main deck Voidwalkers. Yeah, I think that a deck like that certainly has potential because discard spells are good against combo. Graveyard Hate is good against, the field as a whole. So yeah, pretty cool brew there. One copy of Bant Nadu, which ended up actually winning the showcase. So I expect this deck to be more popular simply by the fact that a lot of players, with rental plans like ManaTraders will just check, oh, which deck won? Oh, that looks cool. Let me play that in my next challenge. And thus, upping the chances of the deck doing well. So I do think Nadu is a tier 1 strategy. I'm just saying it'll be maybe a little bit inflated in the weeks to come. Grixis Control, always tip my hat to that player. Single copy of Delver. I saw that this specific list incorporated Stock Up and Mystic Sanctuary to kind of grind. And when you're making a deck building decision like that, you're basically saying, I think the format has slowed down enough for me to cast a 3-mana draw spell out of my Delver deck and then do it again with Mystic Sanctuary. So this is a way to give your Delver deck a bit more durability into the mid game and a bit more game against, the Bowmaster, slightly bigger, quote unquote, Delver deck in Dimir tempo. So if you really like Delver, I think that's a good way to go. Dreadnought did well in the hands of a single player. It's always, or your Stifles or your Consigns or your Doorkeeper Thralls or your Dress Downs, which are you picking, which are going to be good against the field. And if you can nail that, I love Dreadnought as a deck, but you know that. I've played that deck before. Single copy of Doomsday. Yeah, the Expert deck can do well in any metagame. Couldn't do well if I were to play it. But yeah, tip my hat. Lance player, still the same Lance player doing well, top-8ing the showcase, doing things your way. Big inspiration for me. Almost exploration, but it's a big inspiration for me. And I think you should, if you love a deck enough, you should just keep working at it. And speaking of Primeval Titan, so this is Sowing Mechaspawn at Home. So awesome to see the player just replacing Mechasmons with Primeval Titan and then say, well, the show must go on. And I believe he was rewarded with a top 8 in the showcase qualifier. So all in all, very, very interesting metagame here. So if we were to look at pillars, let's try and see here. We're looking at days, we're looking at show and tell, we're looking at graveyard. We could even add the breakfast deck here to the graveyard, even though it's way more resilient, obviously, than the others. Then we have some colorless decks here, Ancient Tomb, Stompy style decks. And from there, it's like a big mix. So I guess the biggest takeaway here is you need a playable blue-black mid-range matchup. You can't fold to show and tell. You need to address the graveyard. And Blood Moon is at an all-time low, so maybe we can get a little bit creative with our mana base. And we don't want to lose to Painter, which mainly means we can't lose to Saga tokens, we can't lose to the combo, right? So huge impact from Stock Up here. Stock Up seeing play out of the Show and Tell deck, Stock Up seeing play out of Painter, and Stock Up seeing play out of Control and Delver. So lots of Stock Ups getting cast. Now let's look at some sideboard options, or at least some sideboard cards that I want to discuss. So let's go with the big one first here. Pyroblast is amazing in through this field. Kills Murktides, kills Kaito, counters Strix, Win beats Force of Will, kills Tameo, counters Show and Tell, counters, Teferi and Illusionist and Forces here, even good against Blue Painter, awesome against, I don't know, half of the decks over here. So Pyroblast, great tool in the week to come. Null Rod is an interesting one because, sure, it's good against Painter, but what else? So at this point, I don't think Null Rod is worth it. Painter numbers need to go up in order to justify that card. So that is very good news for the Painter players. Needle is a card that's going to be very strong because all of a sudden we have Nomads in both the Nadu midrange deck and the Breakfast decks. It's good against Painter. You can name Grindstone. You can name Ursa Saga. It's good against Sneak Attack, so all of a sudden that card is awesome. Even just naming a Vial against mono, I was about to call it mono white, but black-white taxes is awesome. So I really like Needle effects. Maybe like a single copy is going to do it. I like Flusterstorm here, mainly because if you think there's going to be enough show and tells, stock ups, and counter wars, that card is good. So obviously it's less flexible than a card like Spell Pierce, but it does the job better against, let's say, Show and Tell Force It Will Draw. So you can definitely consider that card. Subtlety is a cool one that a member of my my page has been playing for a while, or at least, playing around with. So let's say you really want to beat Oops All Spells, or Oops All Spells becomes more popular, then you can play that card. It's kind of like a more specialized Force of Negation in that sense. So yeah, pretty cool suggestion. For now, I don't want to run it just yet, but it's good to have in the arsenal. Force of Negation is an interesting one. I generally love that card in a new format. So everybody that I talked to, I suggested they ran 3 in their tournaments. It's like counter Show and Tell, counter Blood Moon, counter Dark Ritual, or Reanimation Spell or Entomb, or whatever the case may be. Random stuff over here between Doomsday, Burning Wish, Exploit Lands decks. So much stuff to counter. Even Up the Beanstalk is a decent target. So Force of Negation is going to be good in a new metagame, and then as things get more defined, maybe I'm back to playing only 2 copies instead of 3. Hydroblast is a card that we have evaluated multiple times already, but I still think is relevant. So let's see here. For instance, now that the sneak attack variants are dominating the straight up omniscience variants, that's a plus for Hydroblast. If painter decks are half red, half blue, that's a plus for Pyroblast. If Delver decks are Izzet and stuff like, the Red Storm decks and some little bit of Grixis and people are grinding a bit, maybe they go to red versions because they want to play Pyroblast. That's a big plus for Hydroblast. So keep an eye out for that one. For now, I want to play like a single copy in my blue deck, most likely. Last up, we have Consign to Memory, and this card went from being a 3 of 4 of super stable to now you can even justify playing 0. So let's try and look at the field here and see against which decks do we actually want it. So it's decent against Oops. It has crossover usage at least. It's decent against Painter. It does counter some stuff without being perfect, but it does some stuff. And then from there, it's good against Dreadnought. It's good against, the Storm mechanic. Probably good here against big mana Cloudpost. Obviously good against Doomsday. These decks should also have some targets. So now we're actually looking at Consign just being a role player with Eldrazi kind of off the map. So until, something like a Mystic Forge deck or an Eldrazi deck or something returns as a force in the metagame, I'm down to 0 or a single copy of a Consign to Memory, to be honest. So yeah, let's keep an eye out for that one, because all of this crossover, I'm not sure it adds up to enough to justify more than a single copy, but who knows? I'm pretty excited to see things develop and get some more games in. Yeah, I think this week I'm just gonna be playing a lot of Legacy. You can expect guest content from Larson on Breakfast. I will be finishing up my Mono Blue Painter guide as well. And yeah, if you want to check out my tournament series, read some articles, join my awesome community over on Discord, join the Metafy, and you'll be very welcome to join the Barony. That's going to do it for today's video. I've really had a lot of fun both working on Legacy the last few weeks, analyzing what actually ended up doing well, and of course thinking about big plans on how to combat it. All of that is why Magic is perfect and the activity I love to do the most in the world. So I hope you guys do as well. And yeah, hope to see you back soon on the channel for more sweet Legacy analysis. Have a good one, guys.